Kang got a Kang.
That was Jonathan Majors, who plays Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. If you know your Marvel comics, that sentence doesn't make a whole lot of sense. After all, Kang is an Avengers-level threat. So why was he chosen as the villain for the third Ant-Man movie? As it turns out, the director and cast had a lot to say on that bold choice. So listen up and hear about how Kang provides a big challenge to Marvel's littlest hero.
I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want. What's that? Time.
Most Marvel fans know Kang as Kang the Conqueror, the time-traveling warlord. But what separates him from other Marvel villains is he's a never-ending menace with countless variants. Comic readers first met Kang in his ancient Egyptian guise known as the Pharaoh Rama-Tut in 1963's Fantastic Four number 19. Then he popped up 1 year later in the Avengers number 8 as Kang the Conqueror, his most iconic and dangerous variant. In the years since, we've met all manner of Kangs, including the Scarlet Centurion and Immortus. The many Kangs team up with each other to plot the downfall of Earth's heroes in the Council of Kangs. As a master of time travel, Kang has access to the greatest technology and weapons from now to the distant future. And even if you somehow beat him, there's a whole legion of variants ready to take his place, like a Hydra. Not to confuse Marvel bad guys, but you get the point. This dude has successfully taken down the Avengers and ruled over Earth. So, to pit him against a family of size-changing heroes just seems a little unfair. But for director Peyton Reed, it was a premise too juicy to resist.
That idea appealed to us from the beginning of on paper, it's like, okay, Kang the Conqueror is going up against Ant-Man and the Wasp, who's gonna win? It's like, well, that's kind of a no-brainer. The tension that creates excited us as a starting point, right? Like, how are they possibly gonna survive this situation? And I also loved it, again, because when we started the first Ant-Man, Scott Lang was, he was a character kind of playing in the margins, right? He was not anywhere near being an official Avenger, but eventually kind of worked his way into that organization. And now the idea that Ant-Man and Wasp are the first two Avengers who are going to come up against Kang, and he's front and center in this movie, for me personally, was really exciting. It felt like a great progression of the trilogy.
So what's it gonna be? Ant-Man.
Never in a million years did Scott Lang ever imagine he'd wind up as a superhero.
Hi, I'm Scott.
Did he just say, hi, I'm Scott?
Let alone going head-to-head with a tyrannical time traveler. Remember, in the first film, he went up against a guy in a bee suit. In the second, he fought a phase shifter and a gangster/restaurant owner. Challenging, but nothing to worry about.
I'll take this now.
He has faced more fearsome foes, but whenever he's been in over his head, like during Civil War
I'm shaking your hand too long.
and Endgame, he was backed up by Earth's mightiest heroes.
It's baby.
It's Scott.
But this time, his safety net is gone. He's stranded down in the quantum realm with his family, where the Avengers can't assemble. And he's got to face Kang head to head, man to man, god to ant. Here's what Rudd and Majors had to say about pitting their two mismatched characters against each other.
Well, he's kind of powerful in a way that I've never faced. And I faced Thanos, who's pretty powerful. But I also had like a whole bunch of other Avengers with me. Kang possesses certain abilities and has strengths that even supersede Thanos. So it's pretty intense and I have to figure out what to do. I have, some of my family there with me, but it's hard and it's scary and it absolutely makes no sense that I would be willing to kind of risk everything. But, I'm a dad and I have a daughter and that's what you do when you're a dad.
I think the most interesting thing about Scott Lang as an Avenger is that he is a regular old guy. You know what I mean? He's the everyman. And Kang has a long history and he speaks that language. And he is, for all his powers and strengths and knowings, flesh and blood. So I think the coolest part about the dynamic was it was two guys on the schoolyard having a chat. That's what's actually, I think, was very interesting to me. If you were to play them elevated, or super below, there's no conversation really. Ant-Man should cower. But to meet him man to man, mano a mano, you do this, I do this, Have I killed you before? No? Cool. Great. Keep it moving. That is what's, look at you. That's what's crazy. That's a very interesting tempo to start the film with, the relationship with.
You're out of your league, Ant-Man.
Some of that just kind of happens, when you're acting and you are going off of what the other person is doing, and a relationship, a dynamic, and all that forms. We never talked about what we were going to do. I didn't know exactly what he was going to do. And our first scene in the film where we meet each other was the first scene that we ever shot.
You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor. We get confused a lot. Similar body types. Who are you?
So it was really interesting to say, oh, wow, I see, oh, yeah, this guy means business. And it was really, a charge to get to act with Kang kind of in the movie for the first time, and I'm seeing what he's doing, and that sustained itself throughout the entire film.
You think you can beat me? I am Kang!
It goes without saying that Kang was a challenge to translate from the comic books to the silver screen. He sports green and purple armor with a chunky helmet and a blue face mask. His powers are vaguely defined as having to do with time manipulation and hyper-advanced technology and energy blasts. He experiences time differently than normal people, giving him a detached personality. But it's a challenge that the director and actor rose to meet.
It's always the big trick to take these characters, most of whom were created in the 60s in a comic book, and bring them to life, now, and make them feel like real, living, breathing, dimensional characters. Jonathan and I talked about the mask and the sort of stuff and the functionality of the thing. And we talked about those lines on the thing. I personally wanted very little between the audience and Jonathan Major's face, because he's such a compelling actor. And then we talked about scarification and the idea of what if we did these scars, and when the mask is illuminated, it highlights those and they were energized as part of the thing with the suit. The scarification I love, because Jonathan showed up in the makeup and was like, okay, that's cool, because there's an implied thing there. This guy's been through some shit, right? He's been through some battles, and I don't know if that's a ritualistic thing or what that was scars in battle. Was it a result of the mask? But we just love the look of it.
You're an interesting man. Scott Lang.
Well, he controls time. Time behaves differently. He also controls that, but he's trapped. And so time, in a way, is not moving for him. And yet he's watching it move, but he can't be moved by it. It's quite complex, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's what it is. He controls it, and yet it's his biggest attachment and adversary.
I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want. What's that? Time.
Even though it's Scott who must ultimately face Kang in Quantumania, he's not entirely alone. He is, of course, joined by his family of fellow superheroes, not to mention his teenage daughter Cassie, who is suiting up for the first time.
Where are we?
Together, they have to find a way to foil Kang's plans.
The understatement, a good villain exudes power without having to act powerfully. He had just a sense of strength inside that was always felt threatening, even though, in the sense of unpredictability. And he was a seductive. He was very seductive. And I knew he was in good shape because I watched poor Paul come back from those fight scenes going, this is rugged. I think he's going to be a wonderful addition to the Phase 5 of the Marvel Universe, and he did a hell of a job with us, so all the power to him. I think he's going to be part of Marvel for a long time.
We'll stop them together.
I feel like there are so many scenes in this movie where Hope just has this really uncertain look on her face because she's never, in Endgame, I guess she was put in a position like this, but she was surrounded by formidable Avengers at that point. But to be there alone with the people she cares about most in the world, fully at stake, under her care, I feel like it's somewhat overwhelming, and I think it's really great to see her on the back foot, because normally she's so competent and capable in all situations, and Kang is certainly in a league that she's not used to dealing with.
But not everyone is scared of Kang. Cassie Lang is perhaps too young to have a healthy fear of superpowered tyrants. Comic readers know Cassie as the Young Avengers hero Stature, but in the film we see her become a hero alongside her family instead.
Like that. You see what I did? You see what I did?
No, You're like this small.
I jumped into half.
She appears to be wearing the purple armor of her Stinger persona from the comics. Well, whatever she's wearing, it gives her the confidence to stand up to evil, even if she doesn't realize what she's getting herself into.
She's a little naive to the power that he has. And you can feel it the first time she meets him. She's like, well, what? What are you talking about? Very young to think that way, almost disrespectful, because she doesn't know that. She doesn't know how powerful she is. And it's kind of nice that she's like, I don't really care who you are, like, I'm gonna fight you. And she does it. She has no fear. And I think that comes with being youthful. The older you get, the scareder you get of getting hurt. She doesn't care if she's gonna get hurt. She just leads with her heart. And she's a little bit impatient and falls over and is clumsy, but now I just feel like I'm talking about myself.
I will take my revenge on those who banished me, and I will burn them out of time.
Finally, it's important to note that Quantumania is but one stop on Kang's journey through the multiverse saga. We first met one of his variants in the Disney Plus series Loki.
This is wild.
The energetic and talkative He Who Remains warned of a variant far worse than him.
If you think I'm evil, just wait till you meet my variants.
And that we would meet him should he be killed. And oh, yep, he got stabbed to death.
See you soon.
Well, which is why everyone in the Marvel multiverse is now in grave danger, and why we're about to see a lot more Kangs. As we already know, the next Avengers movie will be Kang Dynasty, named after the classic comic where Kang conquers Earth. Director Peyton Reed shared what it was like to effectively tell the middle chapter of Kang's story and the chilling impression they wanted him to make on the audience.
I like the idea that in Loki, He Who Remains kind of references obliquely. There's maybe a bad guy coming. Wait till you meet this other one. So we like the idea of Kang the Conqueror being the most feared Kang of all the variants. So much so that there's a reason he's in the quantum realm, right? He's been exiled. We don't know exactly why he's been exiled, but he did something bad.
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?
You know, Jonathan and I talked about if you didn't live time in a straight line, if it was in a loop, how would that affect your personality? And the idea that Kang is kind of a man outside of time, and he's broken. There's a sadness to Kang, right? He sees this as his destiny, and that these things, like these battles, he talks to Scott and says, you're an Avenger, have I killed you before? It's like, wait, he's fought the Avengers before? And it sounds like he's fought them so much he can't keep it straight, and that's scary. There's something scary about this guy who's world-weary and battle-weary, but he keeps going. There's an inevitability about Kang that is frightening. And we talked about the way Jonathan performs him, this economy of movement and dialogue. When he says something, he really, really means it. And it's a scary energy to put opposite Scott Lang.
And that's all from the cast of Quantumania on Kang the Conqueror. Thanks for watching. For more MCU goodness, check out our spoiler-free review of the movie right here on IGN.